Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening, Brother Eric. Good evening, Dhamma friends. Welcome back.
Good evening, Bhante.
As we class, shall we begin by paying respect to the Buddha? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Once again, good evening, Dhamma friends. Today, we are going to study about Dhammapada's 103 stanza. And this stanza is teaching us about how do Panditas, wise people, understand frustrations and how do they get through to the happiness. So let us take a look at the stanza at this point. So this is Dhammapada's so day 103 and then Dhammapada's 82nd stanza. Yatapi rahadu gambhiro Vipasanno anavilo evan dhammani sutvana viprasidanti pandita. Once again, yatapi rahadu gambhiro vipasanno anavilo evan dhammani sutvana viprasidanti pandita. So we'll be asking groups to read now. First, I would like to ask someone from group 1. Yes, Meli, please.
Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
Okay. Yatapi rahado gambiro vipassano anavilo evam damani sudvana vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Group 2. Group 2. If not, group 3. Yes, Lisa.
Thank
Please.
you. Good evening, Bhante. Yatapi rahado gambiro vipassano anavilo evam damani sutvana vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
And
Bhante.
group 4 is KBL.
Thank you, Bhante. Yatapi rahado gambiro vipassano anavilo evam tamani sutuano vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And group 5. Yes, Melinda.
Thank you, Bhante. Yatapi rahado gambiro vipassano anavido evam damani
Anavilo.
anavilo evam damani sutwana vipasidanti pandita.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, Bhante. Thank you.
And group 6. Same form, please. Yes, same form, please.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Yatapi rahado gambiro vipassano anavilo evam damani sutwana vipasidanti pandita.
Great.
Thank you, Bhante.
And group 7. Group 7. Oh, yes, Hema, please.
Sorry, Bhante, I'm getting organized. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Yatapi rahado gambiro vipassano anavilo ivam dhammani sutwana vipasidandi pandita.
Okay,
Sadhu.
great.
Thank you,
Yes.
Bhante.
Group 8. Someone from group 8. If not, I will ask others to read. So we will start with Chupeng. Chupeng and then Ching Ching and the rest. Yes, Chupeng, please.
Good evening, Bhante.
Yes, good evening.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Billing.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Yatapi rahado gambiro. Vipassano anavilo. Evam dhammani sutwana. Vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank
And
you.
Jenny.
Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great. And
Thank
Seri.
you.
Sukihoto Bhante.
You go through.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Nine, please.
Good evening, Bhante.
Yes, good evening.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Pauline, please.
Thank you, Bhante. Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
And Margaret.
Evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Now I would like to ask others. Perhaps we can ask Eric to read just to see, try out, nobody's going to be incorrect in class and others too.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, vipassano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasidanti pandita.
See, fast learner. Okay, anybody else who would like to read? Anyone else who would like to read? Yes, Cindy, please.
Good evening, Bhante.
Yes, good evening.
Yatapi rahado gambiro, visapano anavilo, evam dhammani sutwana, vipasinani pandita.
Okay, I think there are things to hear again with regard to the second and fourth line. Could you read again those two lines?
Only the two lines.
Yeah,
Bhante.
the second and fourth.
Vipassano anavilo, vipasidanti pandita.
Yes, great. Okay. I think now at this point, we will get into the stanza. Now, looking at this stanza, you can see how do wise individuals lay people, enlightened ones handle their frustrations. You don't see the frustration part over here, but in the story, we will see the frustration, how it went with regard to some. First, we will look at the literal part, literal translation of the stanza, and then get to the contextual later. Yatapi rahadu gambi. Rahadu means, rahadu, Pali word, lake, right? It can be a pond or a lake. Gambiro, deep. Right? So just as a deep lake or pond. And we understand that the nature of a lake is usually calm, undisturbed. And then the nature was given in the second line. Vippasanno anavilo. Vippasanno, clear, and anavilo, undisturbed. So clear with regard to the way how we look at it. Normally we understand it when you get to see a very big lake. In some places, the water of the lake is very crystal clear, sometimes turquoise in some countries, and anavilo, undisturbed. In the same way, Evang Dhammani Suttvana Vippasidanti Pandita. Wise individuals, having learned the Dhammani, Dhammani means teachings. Having learned the teachings of the Buddha, they become Vippasidanti, they become clear. What do we mean by clear? Clarity here. Now, when it comes to security, we want to clear the security. When it comes to immigration, we have to clear the immigration. When it comes to clearance certificates, one has to clear from that. What do you think which the Buddha meant by Vippasidanti? Clear from those disturbed situations. I think by learning the Dhamma, one of the most important things that we are getting into is clarity. Clarity with regard to phenomena. Even that can come from daily life, right? With regard to what other people are doing to us, what we are doing to them, how we are responding to them, what is happening to us in our daily life, and then how we perceive the society, and also the global situations, and our own, what you call, memories, sanya. So when we deal with all these aspects, we feel and we get to the point that clarity with regard to processing these phenomena stands out in that process. I think regardless of how much Dhamma have we been learning so far, what stands out at that point is whether we are able to clarify what's happening to us, whether we are able to see them in a little bit clear perspective. That is what we are supposed to have, although it might not happen all the time, right? It might not happen because of how we process them and the individuals that we are dealing with. It might not happen, but Panditas can easily tap into their clarity, right? Now, you could think about why Panditas can get to that point. In Dhammapada teachings, as well as in other Buddhist teachings, the Buddha is saying that Panditas always wish to see things with regard to 3 marks of existence. Okay? What are the 3 marks of existence? Or what are the 3 universal characteristics of every phenomenon or all phenomena?
Anicca, dukkha,
And Anatta.
Anatta.
Anicca nature, dukkha nature, anatta nature. Now, this is the clarity. When we are able to see the anicca nature of every phenomena, all phenomena, and then thereby, if everything is actually, there are two things to learn. One is anicca nature, we call it anicca, and then the phenomenon called subject to changes nature, we call it viparinama dhamma. There are two things to learn with regard to anicca. One is anicca, which means changing nature of whatever the thing that will happen. And then viparinama dhamma. There are two things. And this nature, anicca, changing nature, and the dhamma nature of the anicca. That means everything is subject to change. Anicca, viparinama dhamma, aspects of every phenomenon, all phenomena. And the more someone can see this anicca and viparinama dhamma nature with regard to anything, that person is less likely to suffer, to experience discomfort, dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness, maybe at most suffering. We don't use that word actually. I mean, that is how someone will get into that higher level. I mean, dukkha has many varying ranges, right? You can't say suffering in the first place. So when someone is able to observe the anicca nature and also the viparinama dhamma nature with regard to what could happen in the future, what is happening, what has happened, could be understood from anicca nature, and what could happen from viparinama dhamma nature, and that person, ascension being, is less likely become affected with the dukkha nature, right? And if you take the polar opposite of that scenario, if the Buddha uses a word called akovidu, right? That's a Pali word that akovidu. Sappurisa dhamme akovidu. Someone who is unskilled in the Dhamma. Akovidu. Not kovidu. So that kind of person who is, of course, bala, or what do you call this unwise person, is not able to understand the changing nature and subject to change nature, and then he or she will land onto number of dissatisfying, unsatisfactory nature of that experience. Now, let's go back to the good one. When the Sappurisa is able to see the changes that has happened, that is happening on the spot, and that will happen with regard to Viparinama Dhamma, Sappurisa will be able to see that scenario way before, upfront in their experience. And thereby, the Sappurisa is able to see the particular phenomenon through not self context. This is something very interesting, because Buddha also talks about that we have an atta, right? And Buddha believes that we have an atta. If there is no atta, who has come here to listen to this Zoom discussion? I mean, who has come here? Are these panchakhandas? I mean, yes, we are panchakhandas, but to be dignified, to be on a very polite, courteous way, we understand that. But conventionally, no, X, Y, Z people came in, showed up, right? But if we want to disintegrate the very core, into the very core, then we understand Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Then if there is nothing, then how come there is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara? It shouldn't be, right? That is why in the Abhidhamma text, they are saying it is not even the Puggala Anatta, but also there is something called Dhamma Anatta. not self with regard to the Puggala is that the Veriko is the five aggregates. And when it comes to Dhamma, all phenomena, they are talking Dhamma Anatta. This is a very huge concept in the Abhidhamma. We don't want to get to that point here. But we understand that is the place where Buddha talks about sunyata, emptiness. If there are no people, no animals, no deva, nobody, then how come there exist five aggregates? They are also labels. What is rupa? I mean, this is something that we all agree to understand. Then there shouldn't be a rupa as well. Yes, we can further, bring them into smaller units like a what do you call, like an atomic perspective. But we understand that they also don't exist at a certain point. What is happening is that everything is fleeting and dynamic and changing, has been changing, is being changed, and will subject to a lot of changes. And these causes and conditions could create other things. So now, when Pandita understands anicca nature, viparinama dhamma nature, dukkha nature, then Pandita can also understand that there is a self that is changing, exists at certain points, but that atta, self, is not permanent. It will never be able to be picked up as permanent. That is the point Pandita also understand, that conventional self that is lasting every moment, also subject to disintegration. Anatta. Right? So we better translate anatta to be not self, not that no self, non-self could be a little bit confusing translations, I mean, which many Western scholars have done, even some Western monks. So we have to look at it from a larger, broader perspective, because it is better to say anatta. How are we going to say there is no self when we accept atta on the other side? Self exists with being changed, and that self even cannot be taken as self at a certain point in that higher understanding, which we call it as not self, rather than picking it up as no self or non-self. And then when the Panditas are further exploring the very nature of this phenomenon, or all these phenomena, they also understand that nothing exists. And what we can see is a perfect emptiness in this whole nature. That is a higher level of anicca dukkha anatta nature. But interestingly, Mahayana Buddhism picked up sunyata in a higher format, and then they develop it into many aspects. But early Buddhism has discussed sunyata in many ways. So anyways, I was trying to tell you about how Panditas could handle any situation in their life. They handle it in a very clarified way, in a very clear way. So when you deal with someone, if you end up with a lot of frustration all the time, that means you might not be associating Panditas that much. And Panditas would like to deal every situation in a clear way, and trying their best not to hurt other people, and being driven by that clarity. And you see how some people react to certain situations, and then they doubling down, they are multiplying the suffering, right? Maybe they are professional Dhamma listeners, but they might be multiplying the suffering that is already existing behind the scene. That's why when Panditas are dealing with something, they know how to at least diminish the suffering, because pain is everywhere. I think that pain can be multiplied, quadruple, the way how we process inside and outside, with us and with other people that we are in our life, family, and then friends, socially, politically, all that. So at least Panditas are better handling all those situations, be that a small anger, frustration, any other situation. So then the larger, broader perspective of this stanza, let's go back again just to see a sneak peek of the stanza again. Yatapi rahatu gambiro vipassano. So the Pandita's nature is related to a pond. May I know the nature of the pond? Does the pond receive water from a lake? Could it be? What is the nature of a pond or a very big lake? How does lake obtain water? There are multiple suttas in the Sutta Pitaka where Buddha alludes a lake to the Pandita's nature, wise person's nature. Where do lakes obtain water? Thing to worry about, right? And somebody might be worrying. If the lake is going to be overflown, how do lakes gather water, obtain water? Water is bubbling out from the bottom. Could this be a fountain, right? I think in one sutta, Buddha talks about 6, 7, 8 lakes in a mountain, and water is turquoise, crystal clear water. How do these lakes get water? Right? So there is a nature, inherent nature, that these lakes receive water on their own. And it's like a permanent pension for a spiritual seeker, like a wise person. People are depending on pension, right, for their rest of life. But if people have come to the right level of panditas, they are happy all the time. They don't need other person's support because they are happy within. So that's the nature of what the Buddha is trying to say with regard to this lake scenario. And there are two things Buddha was referring to with regard to the nature of the lake. One is Vipassanno, Ana. Vipassanno means clarity with regard to the surface level. And Anavilo, undisturbed. It's not Avilo. Avilo means, what does Avilo mean? Distant. Do we see certain water areas that are very Avilo? Ocean. Actually, the most places that we see the Avilo type of water is streamlets, right? Those streamlets, they are very noisy, right? They don't have water, but they are so noisy. Okay? Sometimes even when you deal with people who don't have lots of clarity in their life, depth in their life, you see the noisy nature of those people. But think about these large lakes, they don't create any sound. Very peaceful, very serene. That's the nature of a wise person. They don't show off. They don't brag about even the Dhamma. If you ask something, they will explain to you, but otherwise they are very calm, quiet people. They are happy people. They don't expect other people to check on their happiness. Whatever the merits that they have received through their Dhamma learning or other things, secular, mundane life. So that's why the Buddha used a crystal clear lake to understand how do Panditas deal with phenomena. Okay, so he picks up two aspects of the lake. One is the clarity, because there's not that much of bubbling, or I would say any what do you call discursive nature on the surface of the lake. On the other hand, what do you call the perturbation, I would say undisturbed nature. The water is not disturbed unless certain birds, some other animals go and do some hunting or any other thing, right? The water is pretty, I would say, peaceful in that sense. So in the same way, Panditas, Pandita's prima facie value, the surface level activities, how they talk, how they deal with other people, is very serene. And on the other hand, they are not disturb people. What do you think? Can someone disturb a wise person, Pandita, according to this idea? Yeah. I mean, according to this idea, nobody can disturb a Pandita. They think they can disturb a Pandita, but Panditas are not disturbed. I think in the previous stanza we discussed Selo yata ekagano vatenana samirati evan ninda pasansasu. Right? What did we discuss? They are like a mount and they are not shaken. If you are a Pandita, I don't think you are going to brag about yourself. See, if you hurt me, I don't get shaken. You know, so I'm a Pandita, hurt me, I won't get shaken. And they will do more bad things to you. Don't try to, take that kind of a stand. If you are a Pandita, you just stay quiet and you just enjoy your quietness and that wisdom. So, according to this stanza, Panditas cannot be perturbed, disturbed by anybody because they have their own happiness in their life by practicing anicca, viparinama dhamma, dukkha, anatta, sunyata, all these aspects with regard to anything. So this is what the Buddha is discussing in this stanza. I think the more important stuff coming from the story, and we will discuss some other things as we discuss. Let's see some more information here. Just as a deep lake is clear and undisturbed, so too the wise Pandita, having heard the Dhamma, become clear. Story is Khana Matavat. Khana Matavat. Normally, Kana in some Pali texts they are saying blind, but we don't see blindness here. Kana is a certain name of somebody. Perhaps it's a tribe of somebody, surname of. Kana Mata was a devout woman, devotee to monks. Let's unpack the story now. Now, what happened was that Kana Mata had a daughter and she was married, and time to time she used to come see his mother. So what happened? There was one time her daughter came to see mother, and then the mother said, please don't go. I will prepare some cakes for you. Some cakes, maybe poopers. So just wait. I will make some cakes for you so you can bring back to your house to enjoy with your husband. Then what happened? While she was preparing those cakes, there was one monk came to the house. And then she said, can you wait? Because I have only limited raw materials to make the cakes. So I will make for you. I will offer to the monk. And then what happened? Now she waited one day. Now she's kind of late behind the time. The husband is waiting for her. And then now she was going to leave on the next day. And then the mother was Kanamata. Let's say daughter's name was Kana. Mother's name was Kanamata. Kanamata was mother's name. Kana was the daughter's name. Then Kana was waiting now. Today my mom will make the cakes so I can leave today. And then what happened? There was another monk came to house on the same day, second day actually. And then what to do? And mother offered the cakes that she made to the second one. And then she was making up her mind and mother was trying to solace her. And then now the third day, and then husband sent a message errand to his wife. If you don't come tomorrow, I will divorce you. I will marry somebody else. That was a little bit of intimidation for her. And she was very worried now. And what to do? And she was waiting to go on the third day. Now I think the almost third day. And then there was another monk came to the house. And then mother offered the set of cakes to that third monk. Now she understood that He divorced her and he married another person somewhere over there. And then she was at least trying to get out of the house. On the fourth day, there was another monk came to the house. And then she offered the cakes to that fourth monk now. Now she knows things have been real, real tough on her at this point. And then finally, what to do now? There's no point of going as well. And then she started blaming all the Sangha members. Because of these Sangha members, my marriage was ruined. And then every time she sees a monk and hates, and she's saying all the bad things to them. On her side, because she didn't understand the whole situation. And what happened made her to be how she was and how she was responding to situations. And then what happened? No monk came to that house after that because she is blaming all the monks. She sees a monk on the road, she's blaming. So after some time, what happened was the Buddha overheard the situation. And then the Buddha came to the house, Kanamata's house, and then asked, "Where is your daughter?" And then mother said, Kanamata, she's blaming everybody. She's in the room. Then the Buddha asked her, "Can you ask her to come here?" And then she came out, and then the Buddha asked some questions. One question he asked was, did the monks come and take your food? Or were the monks who were traveling here just came to your house just because your mother was going to offer some food? And she accepted. They didn't know what is going on here, and they just came to our house time to time. And then they accepted the food. But anyway, what happened to me was also not nice. It was very unfair because my marriage was broken because of this situation. But anyway, the Buddha then gave a Dhamma talk, especially this Pali stanza, Yata Pirahado Gambi. When you are a Pandita and you can understand what happened here, and at the same time, you can see the larger, broader picture of what happened. Actually, Buddha was not justifying what happened. Now, Buddha wanted her to understand what happened, and if she is blessed enough, then he was wondering, perhaps she will be able to attain Sotapanna. Exactly, she was able to become Sotapanna at the end of this Pali stanza. Think about a lady who was blaming all the monks after listening to this stanza became a Sotapanna. Right? So this was the main story, but the story is not finished. Then the Buddha wanted to narrate the past story about this situation. And then he narrated the past story, what happened to this Kanamata, especially this daughter's mother, in a previous life. The story comes as a Jataka story. This is Jataka 137. I'm going to post it here in the chat. You can see it later. Jataka 137. This Jataka story is a very interesting story. The story is about four cats, mouse, and a stone cutter. Okay, and all they are related to this story, the present story, which we understand during the Buddha's time. What happened? There was a very rich banker with his wife started a living, and sometime in their living, the banker passed away in his young time. And then the lady was now inherited with lots of money. And what happened? She was having lots of craving, lots of lobha towards the money that he left behind. And then she passed away and she became a rat or a mouse to protect that wealth. Very interesting, huh? Normally we understand when someone is very there are stories. Now think about the story of Todeya. Where do we find the Todeya story? Chula Kamma Vibhanga Sutta, right? Majjhima Nikaya. Todeya passed away and he became a dog. Son didn't understand. Subha didn't understand. So we understand when someone becomes very greedy about one's wealth, one can become a dog. And don't think that all dogs became like this as being dogs, but this particular situation. Second, we know a lot of stories in the Petavattu, in the Kuddaka Nikaya, where people were very greedy about their own wealth, possessions, and they passed away, and then they became hungry ghosts. This is very rampant across the Pali canon. And now we understand in this story, Babbu, actually it's called Babbu Jataka. Right? In Babbu Jataka story, 137 Jataka, it says that out of the craving that one created for the stuff that one was inherited, not one created. Now the money and the wealth was her husband's money. And she created a craving towards what she inherited from the husband's side. And out of that craving, someone became a mouse. Now, don't think all rats are people who had a lot of lobha and then became rats. Huh? Don't come to that generalization. You know, people do that. When they see this kind of situation, all must be like this. No, there are different causes and conditions. So then what happened? This particular mouse, it is said that, you know, in Jataka stories, whether you believe or not, there are animals who are talking, right? I will leave it up to you to believe it or not. But you see that these animals are, but what happened to them after many centuries, they lost the speech part. Now we don't see dogs are talking, cats are talking, but these, what you call scientists are trying to make how to understand a cat, how to understand a dog, how to understand the animals. Other than a parrot is repeating what you are talking. At that time, it is said that animals used to talk in some way. We don't know, we don't understand why Jataka stories are saying this part. Perhaps they could have some tangible support to prove these ideas, but we don't find those ideas. Anyways, so this mouse became friendly with the stone cutter. Okay, a stone cutter. He met somebody like a stone cutter on the way. So then the mouse thought, I could bribe this guy because I want to eat meat. So every day, mouse was bringing a small amount of, I think, 1 gold coin from that inheritance, and then leaves in front of the stone cutter. Then to pay for that 1 gold coin, stone cutter has to give mouse some amount of meat. That was the agreement. Now, every day, mouse takes 1 gold coin, leaves near the stone cutter. Stone cutter gives some meat to the mouse. Then what happened? Everything was going well until one cat chased the mouse one day. It'll be a hilarious story, but one cat found the mouse, and then now the cat is not letting him go. Then he had to make a deal at that point. The mouse said, okay, what do you want? Said, I want meat. Then what happened? He said, I'm having an agreement with the stone cutter. I only have certain meat. I will share that meat with you. Now I would like to show you the Jataka stories stanza. That will tell us the next stuff of the story. Okay, the story is Babbu Jataka. Let's go to the Pali stanza here. Yatte ko labate babbu, tutiyo tatta jayati. Tatiyocha chatuttocha idancha babbuka bilanti. Now we will go to the translation. This is the story, but this is the translation. Give food to one cat. Number 2 appears. The second cat appears because they smell it. And third and fourth succeed in fruitful line. witnessed the four that by the crystal died. Okay. What we need to understand is that when the mouse shared his meat with the first cat, another cat also joined, and he also tried to attack the mouse. And now he had to share that small meat with the second cat. And then the third cat also intervened. He had to share the meat with his third cat. Now, by the time he became very emaciated, thin, because his all meat is eaten by these cats. And by the fourth cat, he was extremely weak. And then the mouse approached the stone cutter and told him the problem. Then the stone cutter devised a plan. The plan was, okay, I will create a crystal mirror. Next time when the cats are trying to chase you for the meat, you ask them to see the crystal clear mirror, and then you, behind the scene, you talk like a different animal. And then the first cat trying to attack him, and then he saw his own reflection, he ran away. And so were the second, third, fourth cat. Finally, stone cutter devised a plan for the mouse to get rid. Now I will try to connect these people. Stone cutter was the Buddha. Do you believe that? Very interesting. And the mouse was the Kana Mata, the mother of the daughter, Kana. And the four cats were the four monks came to the house to get the cakes. And the Buddha said, these four monks messed up even in the past life. So while I'm asking Kana to understand what happened, I'm going to make a Vinay rule now for all the monks. Don't go to one house all the time. We don't know what problems they are going through. And you might be disturbing them because they might be not having their food. Maybe they might have other things to do. So don't don't disturb your dayakas, your devotees. So when you go for Pindapata, because what happened actually was the four elderly monks, they all approached this house day by day. And that is how this thing happened. So then Buddha made a Vinaya rule. He's very compassionate by understanding what happened to Kana, her daughter. And also he was concerned about how Sangha members keep subsisting on the Pindapata in this way. This is not a good way to approach, right? So this was the story. And then after sharing the story, he was sharing the story for Kana Mata, Kana's mother, and then the, what do you call, the four monks who approached the house and all that. And the Pali word Babbu, what does Babbu mean? Cat. Now today you know the Pali word for the cat. I don't call cats by Babbu. B-A-B-B-U, Babbu. Babbu Jatakas. So this Jataka story clearly shows all those information. Perhaps we will take a look a little bit and then we will go to the information after that. Babbu Jataka. I think you can read later. See. Okay, see, you can see the story. Give food to one cat. This story was told by the master Buddha while at Jetavana about the precept respecting Kana's mother. She was a lay sister at Savatthi, known only as Kana's mother, who had entered the paths of salvation, to say enlightenment, was one of the elect. Her daughter Kana was married to a husband of the same caste in another village, and some errand or other made her to go see her mother. A few days went by, and her husband sent a messenger to say he wished her to come back. The girl asked her mother whether she should go, and the mother said she could not go back empty-handed after so long an absence, and set about making a cake. Just enough came a brother means Sangha member, going his arms around, and the mother sat him down to the cake she had just baked. Away he went and told another monk who came out just in time to get the second cake, and was baked for the daughter to take home with her. He told a third and a third. Actually, what has happened here is that the monks were communicating, intercommunicating. So I got cake and you can also go there, and then you also can go there, right? That was how they communicated, and they approached the house. And so fresh cake was taken by a fresh comer. Actually, now you can see something very interesting here. Can we relate this with a past story? These 4 monks were cats and they did the same thing in that life, right? That means when they were approaching the mouse with regard to the meat, this was what they have done, right? So the result of this was that the daughter didn't start on her way home and the husband sent a second and third messenger after her. And the message he sent by the third was that if his wife didn't come back, he should get another wife. And each message had exactly the same result. So the husband took another wife. And at the news, his former wife fell a weeping, knowing all this. The Buddha put on his robes early in the morning, went with his arms ball to the house of Kana's mother, Kanamata, and sat down on the seat set for him. Then he asked why the daughter was crying. Being told spoke words of consolation to the mother and arose and went back to the monastery. Right? Now the brethren means Sangha community. Okay, it's an old English term. Now the Sangha community came to know how Kana had been stopped 3 times from going back to her husband, owing to the action of the 4 monks, brothers. And one day they met in the hall of truth, Dhammasala, and began to talk about the matter. The master came into the hall and asked what they were discussing. They told him, Sangha members said, he think not this is the first time those 4 monks have brought sorrow on Kana's mother by eating her stove. They did the like in days gone by too. So saying he told the story. This is the story. So you can read that. I'm not going to read it. We will see the last para just to see. Now the stone maker, right? The Buddha in that life. Now the mouse is very much frustrated about what's happening from the forecast. Why didn't you tell me all this before? Said Bodhisattva. Cheer up. I'll help you out of your troubles. So he took a block of the purest crystal and scoop out a cavity in it and made the mouse get inside. Now stop there, he said and don't fail to fiercely threaten and revile all who come near. So the mouse crept into the crystal cell and waited. Up came one of the cats and demanded his mate. Away we go. And said the mouse, why should I supply you? Go home, eat your kittens. Infuriated at these words and never suspecting the mouse to be inside the crystal, the cat sprang at the mouse to eat her up. And so furious was its spring that it broke the walls of its chest. Its eyes started from its head, so that the cat died. So this way, what we see is that the lesson ended. The Buddha identified the bird by saying, these 4 monks were the 4 cats of those days. Kana's mother was the mouse, and I, the stone cat. Interesting story, right? So the Jataka stories tell us how the connection to the Buddha's time happened, right? So now what we can understand here is that couple things. One thing is that let us see the injustice here, unfairness. Now, of course, she lost her husband. And then what happened actually? Then the king in the place, hopefully King Kosala, and heard, and then he asked whether Kana's daughter would like to stay as a daughter to the king. And she wished to become a daughter. And then the king asked if there is any banker who would like to treat, not as a wife, to treat her. And then what happened? There was one banker who would like to bring her to, who would like to give away a lot of stuff, so that she was very much cherished and then blessed with lots of things. Finally, she led a happy life after that. So the story on one side says how to, okay, we can see a lot of things. One is the 4-month story. The second is how did the Kanamata respond to the situation. So these things will be discussed with regard to our notes at this point. Let's see. So I would put it this as balancing Dhamma and family life, because I want you to understand in that context. Lessons from Kanamata. Let's pick up this point first. Balancing Dhamma practice and family harm. The Dhamma is not meant to pull you away from family life. It is meant to illuminate. True practice needs to blossom as tenderness at home. If you meditate for hours, yet return to your partner impatient or detached, your wisdom has not yet ripened into compassion. If you attend every retreat but neglect the emotional needs of your loved ones, the balance of your practice tilts towards isolation. The Buddha never asks householders to abandon family. He asks them to purify their intention with it. To live rightly, you need to integrate wisdom into daily relationships by listening fully when your spouse partner speaks, by being patient when fatigue arises, by forgiving before resentment builds. In this way, your home becomes a training ground for metta and all these good virtues. Family life, when lived mindfully, is not an obstacle to the path, but it's very solid. Harmony between devotion and domesticity is not a compromise. It is a deep expression of wisdom. Now, somebody can think about why did Kanamata had to behave like that? She could have sent her daughter, right? Because she could have understood uh, what could happen if this is not going to happen. So we can relate this in a way. Of course, the Buddha was trying to connect this with the past life, four monks and all that. But on the other hand, because none of us may not know what may have happened in the past, only the Buddha, right? So we cannot go back and find out what happened, right? The four cats and all that, we don't know. So in that case, especially you as lay people, you need to balance out your family life, right? So do not compromise. I mean, do not take your family life for granted just because you want to be serious with regard to Dhamma practice. Yes, you can be in the way, but never walk away from the responsibilities of your lay life. Right? So that is a very important moral lesson in this story. I mean, because we don't meet the Buddha in this way, so we don't know what happened. We only deal with what is happening to us now. We are only looking at who made the decision, what is happening, and that kind of perspective. So I suggest, I think you know this in your own way, I suggest you, those of them who come to my sutta discussions, I always say, you need to look at the lay teachings, the teachings given by the Buddha to you. And on top of that, you create your Dhamma life. And not that you try to be mutually exclusive in that life. You create a life which is exclusive from the lay life, the life that you are already in. So I feel like this is mutually inclusive. That means Dhamma life and your lay practice, they are mutually inclusive stuff, not mutually exclusive stuff. So sometimes I have heard in many places when some are to complain about their life, some don't like I go to the temple, I engage in activities. There are some things we don't know what is really happening in that very core. But anyway, whatever you do it in a way that you are maintaining your life with regard to your loved ones. Maybe that could be your mother or father, maybe your children, maybe your partner, spouse, husband, wife. Never forget about those responsibilities when you deal with the temple activities. I hope that Kanamata, if we look at Kanamata's story from another angle, okay, we look at it differently. I think that is one thing to understand. Is number one. Number two, let's say Kanamata dedicated her saddha at the expense of what's happening to her daughter, which is not nice. I think that's why lay people you have to think about when you have saddha, trust about the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, how wisely are you supposed to engage in those activities without marring, without destroying your life, especially your existing lay life. And when the Buddha came to the house, and think about think about the frustration which Kanamata's daughter came to. Definitely, she is very frustrated. And then how the Buddha approached the house, and how the Buddha taught Dhamma to them, and how the Buddha persuaded them, right? Perhaps Kana's future was related to has ended up in a royal place, right? And what happened? And he divorced her, and then she found another way out in that story, right? Sometimes we go through a lot of problems in our life. We think this is the end of our life, right? When the problems are crushing us, we think this could be the end of my life. But we don't know we are entering a very interesting area, new chapter of life. Nobody can foresee about it, right? And then somebody approaches you, they say, you don't know your power. You don't know your power. And then you are saying, I also don't know what happened. Right? It happened. That's why perhaps this Kana's future ended up that way. Perhaps that was her life. That was her way to end up her life at the end. But the Buddha did not justify karma in this place. What did the Buddha do in the first place? He made a Vinaya rule, Vinaya disciplinary action for the monks. He said, don't approach. I think that is also very interesting, especially when Sangha members are subsisting on the dana at that time. At that time, there were no monetary donations. It was more about dana activities. The Sangha members did not stay in one temple so long at that time. May I know why is it? Why did they not stay in one temple so long? What was the reason? The reason was
To spread the Dhamma.
Spread the Dhamma. If you stay in one temple all the time, I mean, now it is a different situation. We will discuss that later. Then your precious Dhamma knowledge will only be limited to certain people. Then you are traveling. The Buddha traveled everywhere. Savatthi to Benares, Benares to Kusinara, Kusinara to what do you call Aggalava, Aggalava to Kitagiri, Kitagiri to Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka to other places. He's traveling. Because nowadays, transmission of Dhamma has to be taken different, because now we are all connected, right? Not like that time. So we can disseminate Dhamma in many ways, right? Even now, this is a dissemination, right? You are connecting from many places, right? But yet you are learning, right? The place didn't matter to us at this point. But at that time, Buddha said to monks, you need to. That is the very reason, don't approach one house this way. Maybe, definitely those 4 monks were friends and said, I got a cake from this house. The second monk approached, and third, fourth. So that means when you approaching devotees, you have to be concerned about their life, and never take any devotee for granted with regard to your comfort, even for requisites. So this is very interesting idea which the Buddha told the monks, right? So although the 4 monks were driven by their karma, that's how things happen. That's another point to see. And in the further things we can see with regard to the notes, and how did Kanamata and Kana process the whole situation after. Let's go back to the first point. Deep understanding brings calm clarity. This is what I discussed at the beginning. May I know what is deep understanding? I think we might say that I know something, but what is deep understanding? When you listen to the Dhamma with full attention, let's say Sampajanya or Yoniso Manasikara, something begins to settle within you. The words of the Buddha, especially Four Noble Truths, Arya Satya, do not merely inform. And we all know Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, Magga, but I think they have to be transforming to us. As you contemplate ideally practicing them, Your mind deepens like a tranquil lake, which the Buddha said here, Rahado Gambiro, whose bottom cannot be seen. The turbulence of opinion, restlessness, and pride overall your over-identification. This is something very interesting to gradually subsidize. Can we discuss about identification? Now we have wrong identification, over-identification with regard to ourselves. What is it called? May I know? How do we call this issue in the Dhamma?
Sakaya
Sakkaya
Ditti.
Ditti. Sakkaya Ditti. Right? Sakkaya Ditti means either a wrong identification or an over-identification about us. Do we need an identity? May I know? Do we need? Yes, we need an identity, right? Especially in today's world, we have digital identities and all that. But now the problem here lies at the point of how we give the meaning to that identity. Identity is important. We have to protect the identity. What happens if we don't protect the identity? Other people will steal our identity. That's when passwords come in, right? Passwords, OTIP codes coming, enhanced passwords coming. That's why that is to safeguard people's money, hard-earned money, their certificates, their digital assets and all that. That's not bad. But what kind of attitude as someone who follows the Buddha should we direct towards these identities? The fleeting, dynamic nature of identity always flows like the water. Yes, I have to keep my identity, but I should not create a clinging towards my identity. Thereby, I will be misunderstood. I will misunderstand about my identity, and perhaps I might over-identify myself. A few weeks ago, I sent you I think last week perhaps, I sent you a blog article with how people create Sakkaya Ditti in 20 ways. Sabbasava Sutta, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Majjhima Nikaya's second sutta talks about 20 Sakkaya Ditti forms. How do people create Sakkaya Ditti in 4 ways for each aggregate? Rupa Kanda 4 Sakkaya Dittis, Vedana Kanda 4, Sanya 4, Sankara 4, and Vijnana 4. Altogether 4 multiplied by 5, 20 Sakkaya. So Sakkaya Ditti is not only one. And how we form it will take the shape of 20 Sakkaya Ditti. So when we are learning, especially the Four Noble Truths in this way, what should happen is that we should not be developing any Sakkaya Ditti at that point onwards. That means we are having the proper understanding of the 5 aggregates. So the moment that we create a Sakkaya Ditti towards 5 aggregates, how would you call the 5 aggregates at that point? We normally call them as Panchakanda, right? Panchakanda, 5 aggregates. The moment that you create a certain clinging towards the 5 aggregates, what would Panchakanda become? Panchupadana Kanda. Panchakanda is supported by the clinging. We are clinging to the rupa. We are clinging to the feeling. We are clinging to the perception. We are clinging to the mental formation karma. We are clinging to the consciousness. That is what we have to diminish in our daily life, right? So over-identification is a distorted version of understanding 5 aggregates. Now, what we are discussing as of now is that what will happen when we are bringing that deep understanding, which the Buddha is saying here as Vipassidanti perspective. Just as a lake's stillness reflects the entire sky, your mind, when clear, reflects reality as it is. This calm is not dullness. It is luminous awareness. Luminous awareness. We call it in Pali Pabassara. Pabasara. I cannot write it here. Perhaps I'm going to send it to you. Pabasara Chitta. Pabasara Chitta means luminous thought. Have you ever found out this Pali phrasing where Buddha said that our mind, here thoughts, our mind is luminous at the beginning, but the luminous mind was taken over by the external objects. Where did the Buddha say? It's in, I think it's Anguttara Nikaya. The Buddha said, you know what? You don't have to be worried about your cultivation of your thoughts, because when you were born, you had a very good kusala mind in a way, because that mind was luminous mind. So we start to believe the kids, right? Kids don't lie. They say, right? Pabassara midang bhikkave chittan tanchakop agantukehi upakkilisse upakkilitta. Right? In Hinduism, they say the mind that a baby has could be similar to the mind and very much elderly person might have. The two minds are similar. When someone is too much elderly, they become a baby. Yeah? Interesting, right? They want attention a lot, and right? The Hinduism says, even the Buddha says in some places, cannot exactly explain it. Hinduism says baby's mind and very much elderly person's mind could be related because both are expecting attention. I mean, very much, not everybody, huh? Not all the elderly people, but maybe a substantial number of people. So what does it mean? Especially the mind thoughts we had when we were born, that was untainted compared to the mind that we are having now. Now we are conditioned too badly. Politics, society, education, money, relationship, people, loved ones, we are very much conditioned. Now it's very difficult to decondition. Huh? No, it is, we supposed to decondition us. Otherwise, there is no way out to get to the Dhamma. There's no way of, no dint of hope in our Dhamma practice. We have to decondition. How to decondition? Anatta. This is the decondition process. Anatta is the deconditioning process. We have to deconstruct us from those excellent matters. So, deep understanding arises when someone is truly looking at those Four Noble Truths, at the same time understanding the luminous nature of the mind that they had when they were small, and trying to understand the conditioning process, sanya process, right? So all these are complementarily happening. It gives you the strength to face life storms without losing balance. Keep to the upekka. When you understand things in terms of cause and condition, what you call hetu and then phala. Another one is pachaya. Those are the conditions. Joy and pain both find their rightful places. Neither clung to no fear. Such understanding makes you peaceful, not because the world has changed, but because your seeing has matured. We don't have to change the world at that point. We expect the world could become a better place. But when we understand, we don't need to argue with other people to change the world. But we know what we can do. We are not creating conflicts. Another very interesting and very peculiar thing with regard to Bala is that they always quarrel with each other. Even when they want to talk about something, they get into a fight. They don't know how to talk about it. There are so many ways to shout it out in a nice way. But they pick up the commotion, they pick up the fight. And you can't even talk about anything with those people. That's why when you are understanding this nature, Rahado Gambhiro, the lake's nature, you know that there is a way to approach anybody, Bala or anybody. Right? Sometimes if you know how to talk to Bala, Bala also can understand you a little bit. If you can talk to very, very undomesticated animals and they become friendly with us at the end, right? Then why not? I think we discussed a story about this, right? Remember, what was the story? There was a young monk, Pandita Samanera. Remember? Pandita Samanera was going with Venerable Sariputta. And then he saw how the irrigators are making the way out. Then he asked from Venerable Sariputta, Bhante, what are they doing? They are making certain irrigation plants so they can bring the water to the place that they want. And then, are they taking care of their mind when they do it? He said, no, they don't need mind. It's an expertise subject. They are experts in the subject, so they know how to make it. They don't take care of the mind. Oh, without taking care of the mind, if people can bring water to another place, how nice is that? He was thinking now. Then they were walking, they saw another interesting phenomenon, right? How those blacksmiths are making those things. So then he understood. Without taking care of protecting their thoughts, but simply because they are expert in a certain subject, they can do the changes. Then what about someone to change the mind, the thoughts, transform the thought? What benefits would come out as a result of it? In the same way, this deep understanding will bring up a lot of areas in our life. So we don't have to change sometime the outside. Generosity refines and tests the heart. I think we know this part. We don't have, you might read it later. Kanamata's generosity. This is interesting. When Kusala creates conflict, actually not Kusala creates conflict, but the way how some people are doing it. Even Kusala can cast a shadow when wisdom does not guide. Kanamata's devotion was pure, but her actions brought suffering to her daughter. This paradox teaches you a vital lesson. Virtue must be balanced with understanding. When you act from devotion alone, you may overlook the small ripples your choices create in the lives of others. That's interesting. When we do anything, we don't have to trouble anybody in our family. We don't have to trouble anybody in the temple. It might be a good thing, but I have to think about wisdom. Why do we have to do so? Why do we have to think before we do even a good thing? Now, normally, reflect before think, act, speak, refer to bad actions, right? Then we can sort it out. Not even that. Even when we do a good action, speech, and thought, we have to reflect. Why is it? Would this bring harm to anybody that are involved? What kind of harm is that? I can speak the truth now, but once I spoke the truth, somebody will be pointed out. And everybody is going to hurt that person. So I have to just understand what to do now. Should I wait for some more time? That means the Buddha asks us to reflect before, during, after, even before executing a good activity. May I know where did the Buddha say this? And who did he say this to? Rahula, his own son. Ambalattika Rahulovada Sutta. We will find it out here. Majjhima Nikaya 61 Sutta. This is the sutta. So now this shows that we should even do a good activity by understanding how to do it in a better way. It doesn't say that you have to stop it. You will still do it, but please consider the impact on anybody. And you become a very good person in your kusala activity. I think Kanamata could have considered, but it didn't happen. But we learn it out of this incident. And then we will pick up a couple of them before we get to the Q&A. The pain of misunderstanding and the healing truth, right? It's about what happened to Kana, right? And then balancing this part we discussed already. seeing before judging, and the Buddha, how the Buddha actually got them to understand what happened. Turning loss into a teacher. When Kanamata realized that her fate-driven actions had caused her daughter's heartbreak, her grief must have been immense. Yet from that pain arose humility and deep understanding. That means Kanamata is a very good example of someone who is too much devotional. Sometimes when you are too devotional, you might cause problems to others. Right? So there is a story in Sri Lanka a long time ago. Somebody, a devotee, was sweeping the ground in the temple, and then the devotee saw a Buddhist monk in the temple. And what happened now? The devotee cannot just drop the what do you call the ankle, and then she just put it onto the monk and bow down to the Buddhist monk at that point. And then that is not respectful, right? Because you are only looking at a certain one side. And think about the other example. I think I shared with you sometime ago. A devotee was to place food on the Buddha's statue, on the Buddha's hand, right? So these are activities that some people might do when they want to, when they cannot understand the wisdom part of the saddha. Saddha always should be managed with wisdom, not even saddha. Metta, karuna, mudita, upekka, mindfulness, anything, any virtue that you learn in Buddhism must be practiced along with the wisdom element. Don't practice them alone. If you practice sila on its own, if you practice karuna, metta, karuna, mudita, upekka alone, then you would come into a lot of problems. So I think Kanamata went through that issue. Maybe she had good intentions, but I mean, if she had been wise, she could have handled a little differently, taking care of the monks, taking care of the daughter's life as well. Finally, the serene lake within you. This is, I mean, the overall idea of the stanza. The Buddha compared the mind of the wise to a clear, deep lake. It's not shallow, easily stirred, or muddy with emotions. And called not avilo. This is avilo, but this is anavilo kind of lake. When you practice mindfulness, compassion, I mean, those 4 divine abodes daily, such a lake begins to form within you. This inner clarity reflects all experiences. Joy, pain, success, failure, without distortion. You don't need to run away to the mountains to find this stillness. Of course, it's nice to go to those places, but if you think that your happiness is in a mountain, in a forest, that might lower this perspective. It already lives beneath your daily turbulence. Each time you pause before reacting, that means we have to respond. Breathe before speaking. Forgive before resenting. The water clears a little more. Eventually, you begin to sense that peace is not elsewhere. It is the natural state of a heart, untroubled by lobha, dosa, moha. When you dwell in that stillness, the Dhamma ceases to be merely words. Now what has happened to many? Dhamma has ceased to become mere words in their life. They are learning lots of Dhamma, unlimited version of Dhamma, but they have ceased to be mere words, some of them. So then at that point only, what will happen? When you dwell in that stillness, the Dhamma ceases to be merely words. It becomes your mirror, your refuge, your home. So Kanamata's story teaches us how to balance life, especially Dhamma and family, and so many other information. Now we will take a couple minutes for any questions, if you have. Please raise your virtual hand if you have any questions. Yes, Hema, please go ahead.
Bhante, I'm curious to know, is it been rude if Kana cut the cake into half for the daughter, half for the monk? Is it rude to offer a monk with a half cake with what she has, than to give the whole cake?
Yeah, she could have done it, but she didn't do it.
So in
Right.
our real life, in our wisdom, without stressing the family or any issue with the people that we want to give, if we can, we just share the portion. Is it the wisdom should come in without
Yes,
hurting?
that's one thing she could have followed. But we don't know whether she had only one bowl to bake the cake. Maybe if the cake was too small, we don't know.
No, the
Now we are
relative.
looking if the cake she baked, we don't know how small, how big was that.
Okay.
Yeah, because now we are talking a very large kind of a cake here. If
Yeah.
we imagine about it, and then the facilities she got to bake the cake, she of course
Maybe
we
small one.
shouldn't have had a very nice baking place for these things. But of course, yes, she could have. That's why we need that wisdom. She should have had some amount of wisdom to her Santa, but she didn't. But she did all that with some amount of good intention. So she could have saved the both sides.
So Bhante, in reality, in our lives, it is also better work with wisdom in such a way that whatever we have, we share without having any conflict, right?
We share wisely, don't
Yeah,
share
wisely.
unwisely.
Yeah.
Because people think sharing is caring. Okay, that's good, but do the sharing with wisdom.
Yeah.
And the other thing, what she could have done was that she could have asked, daughter, you go home, I will send something later. But she couldn't come to that point too. Right?
Yeah.
Finally, her activity became the fate of the daughter as well, right?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante. Yeah.
Okay, there were questions here. Pick up a couple of them. When we are volunteering at temple, at times we are spending more time attending to temple matters than spending time with family members. Is it all right for us to decline responsibilities assigned by Bhante at the temple? Of course, no. But this is why, I mean, you can think about how to do it. On the other side, I think nobody should pressurize you to do this. I hope that they would understand. Will it be considered disrespectful, or will be missing out opportunities to do meritorious deeds? Okay, now the temple culture has been evolving by now. And the way how devotees are dealing with the temple, people in the temple, of course, Sangha members and others, could be a little different. That's why I put the title to be balance it out. You don't take your family for granted just because you want to be in the temple. That is the important thing here. So let's say, I'm not saying to decline the responsibilities, rather to have a better way to look at these responsibilities. If you think that, now you are also saying here, what is that? At times we are spending more time attending to temple matters than spending time with family members, right? Then you can look at the pros and cons of not being able to spend more time with your family members sometimes. Yes, that might also give you a big cost in a certain place. So I hope that you will balance out, not to say it is bad to be in the temple. I mean, of course you will go and do them, but balance out, because don't choose one or the other. Don't choose one or the other. That could be the problem. So I'm not saying to decline. What I'm saying is to have some better plans when it comes to temple responsibility. Better plan. Not that you are declining your family members. Oh, no, don't tell me anything. The whole day I'm in the temple. Don't call me. That might not be the way how to do things. So try to balance out, do a fair amount of stuff in the temple and also attend to your family matters. You want the both. You have to balance out the both. There may be someone who is not happy in the house stuff and then go to the temple, stay the whole day at the temple. That's a different scenario. But I'm looking at someone who has a good family life, who also want to support the Sangha members temple. So please balance out. And then next question is, what is interesting is that if the mother hadn't given rigid and also trapped by her past karma with the 4 months, the Buddha may not have visited Kanamata and advised the daughter, leading to her attainment. So the conditions of trauma crisis led to a yes. This is happening when we look at it from a larger, broader perspective, but we don't find the Buddha anymore this way. So I think when we make it appropriate for the normal society now, let us look at how to avoid unnecessary situation. But in Kanamata situation, it happened due to a karmic thing. And then most of the time, our mind is conditioned and result is rigidness. A rigid mind is unbending, thus causing a lot of trouble in life. Yes, rigidity is a problem. What is the Pali word for non-rigidity? You know? Is there a Pali word for non-rigidity? I mean,
Is it malleable?
Malleable,
yeah,
pliable
what's
mind.
bendability? Bendability, flexible. What is the Pali word for that? Mudu.
Mudu,
Sakko uju tesu uju.
Naputa
Yes,
muduta.
tasa
mudu
mudu antima.
antimani.
The Buddha said in the Metta Sutta, you have to practice mudu as a habit in your daily life. Because sometimes when we are unbendable, very rigid on our ideas, people are clashing with us, we are clashing with them, we are running into problems. So I think we need to become flexible depending on the situations, if they are more, not to create unethical situations. So I think if the mind can be that bendable, flexible, we can even understand our kusala nature. So troubles can be diminished, minimized. Yes. All right. Any other questions you got on this side? Yes, you can ask. You can take one more question. The story shows that a dark and bad experience of event in one's life with the condition. Yes. Yes. I mean, that is also another observation. And finally, all right, if you don't have questions at this point, then let us transfer the good karmas to all the departed ones who passed away in the name of everybody. Especially, I wanted to say, I think I shared some of you about somebody who was attending our Sunday meditation session, passed away, and I think her wake is today, 23rd, Sister Tan Lai Yu, including her, and anybody who passed away in the name of all of us. May they all be able to receive all these good karmas, including Sister Tan Liu. And may all the good karmas we've been making today by learning about how to balance out Dhamma life and family life, and also the karmic things and all that through the Kanamata story, we transferred to all the departed ones who passed away, including Sister Tan Layung. And all the others, may all they be well and happy. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idam me nyati nang hutu, sukita huntu nyateu. Idam me nyati nang hutu, sukita huntu nyateu. Idam me nyati nang hutu, sukita huntu nyateu. May Deva, Naga, Mahidika receive all these good karmas. May they be well and happy. May they protect and bless all of us for good health, quality of life, prosperity, safety, and happiness. May Deva, Naga, Mahidika also finally attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata amhehi sambatan punya sampadang. Sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata amhehi sambatan punya sampadang. Sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bhummatta devanaga mahidika. Punyantang anumuditva chirang rakhang tusasanang. Akasattha ca bhummatta devanaga mahidika. Punyantang anumuditva chirang rakhang tudesanang. Akasattha ca bhummatta devanaga mahidika. Punyantang anumuditva chirang rakhang tumang parang. Chirang rakhang tutvan sadanti. Next, we are moving on to Dhammavish. May all good karmas always support us to be surrounded with Kalyana Mitas. May we become Kalyana Mitas to as many sentient beings as we meet in our sansaric life till we meet. Imina punya kamena mami bala samagamu satang samagamu hotu yavanibana patya. Finally, may all the good karmas which we've been making today by learning about Dhammapada's 82nd stanza about balancing family life and Dhamma life be supportive and helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadana siddhissa nichang baddha pachayino chattaro dhamma baddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balam Ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati samichatu sadhu sadhu sadhu. With those blessings, wishing you a pleasant good night, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday at the same time.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bhante.
Thank you,
Good night,
Bhante.
Bhante. Good night, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good night,
Sadhu,
Bhante. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bhante, good night.
Sadhu Bhante. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.
Bye.